Hey everybody, thanks for coming today. My name is Zareen Hamid, and I'm a cyber threat intelligence analyst at the NCFTA. It is called the National Cyber Forensics Training Alliance. The goal is to create any gaps in the intelligence sharing industry. We're trying to bridge those gaps between law enforcement and private sector. Today, my talk is about hacktivism as a service. Does anyone want to guess what that is? What?
Getting paid to hack things.
Yeah. So we're going to go over that today. Um, so today we're going to go over how hacktivism as a service has kind of evolved from an ideology or political motivation into a service-based model. We'll look at origins, blurry ethical lines, modern case studies, and groups like Darkstorm, which I've been personally working with, and how defenders should think about this emerging threat. So hacktivism is ideology-driven form of cybersecurity, of cyber activity. It's been called the digital picket line, but the methods cross into territory that's ethically gray, sometimes even black hat. While groups like Anonymous, the OG group, brought hacktivism into the mainstream with operations framed around social justice, the reality is now becoming more complex. At its core, hacktivism is about drawing attention, sometimes to real causes, sometimes to trending issues, and nowadays to the highest bidder. It's morally gray and sits between activism and cybercrime. The goal is to generate attention, disruption, and narrative amplification. So these days, hacktivism is morphing into something that's entrepreneurial. Instead of acting purely on ideology, some groups began offering their disruptive capabilities as a service. It blends attacks are political, others for publicity, and nowadays going to the highest bidder. The ethical gray zone is getting even murkier because now they're attacking legitimate businesses, and not because of activism, but because somebody paid for it. There's an ethical spectrum that still exists. So a few years ago, we saw ransomware groups would kick people out of their organization for if they attacked a hospital. So far, what we've been tracking is that they have not been attacking hospitals, so they are trying to be a little bit more ethical. And the goal is activism, protest, disruption for a cause. So hacktivism has lived in the gray area. Between protest and crime, but as the tools get sold rather than ideologically deployed, the moral framing becomes marketing. Some groups still claim boundaries, but the collateral damage is real. Data leaks, for example, can expose deeply sensitive information. So, for example, last year, I received a letter in the mail that the organ donation site had been leaked. As an organ recipient, that's like really harmful because as humans, we have biases. And one of the things is for organ donations, you have to keep everything, recipient and donor, anonymized because, say for instance, I'm a bigot and I don't want to accept somebody's organ just because of their race. So when these attacks happen, it affects the public mistrust of that organization. What we're seeing is gray hat alignment with black hat outcomes. So real world harm, business interruption, reputational damage, and data exposure. So hacktivism as a service isn't new, but what's new is how it's packaged. Defacement, DDoS, doxing leaks. These used to be operations tied to strong messaging. Now they are offered as purchasable components. And it's effectively a menu of disruption that anyone can order. So what I've been seeing with my work on Darkstorm is I'll go on their Twitter, and mind you, whenever they feel like they're about to get caught, they switch up their names. But on their Twitter menu, they have the DDoS attacks. And for like a month, it's $500. For a week, it's $150. Based on their like linguistic pattern, it appears that they are foreign operators, and we've been communicating with them via Telegram. Other ways groups do hacktivism techniques is website defacement, doxing, and data leaks. So I mentioned how I've been working on tracking Darkstorm. The reason this came up was because in the late spring of this year, we noticed a retailer, 2 financial institutions were attacked, and based on what they found, it was Darkstorm. Darkstorm appeared after the Israel-Gaza conflict and quickly adopted tactics similar to the Russian hacktivist group Killnet. Through our research, we found that they have like mirroring tactics, they collaborate. The messaging is overtly political. So one of the retailers that was attacked had a big push for anti-DEI rollbacks. Could that be cause for them to attack us? So, like I said, they offer packages priced by duration, add-ons like data dumps. So if they are successful at, attacking someone and they're able to extract data, they ask for an additional $50 to give us access to the data dump. They have also high-profile hits like JFK and LAX airports. There was a power outage in Europe earlier this year, and they claimed it was them, but when we investigated further, it was not them. So their messaging is a little bit erratic and taking credit for things that they didn't do. This is a representation of merging hacktivism and cybercrime into a gig model economy. It's a hybrid motivation for political messaging and hire for pay model. We don't have any attribution as to who the person is or who the foreign operator is, other than it is a foreign operator based on the linguistic patterns. Hacktivism as a service is thriving because it's cheap, accessible, and emotionally charged. Buyers can outsource disruption without technical skill. Vendors get paid while still claiming, justification, legitimacy, and we are in an ever-polarizing world. So whenever something's disrupted, it gets attention. Their cause becomes a shield for criminal behavior, and the sellers profit financially as well as what they're trying to protest against. And it's a low barrier to entry for buyers. So unlike a disgruntled employee or an ex-employee, I can go hire someone for $200 to DDoS one of the companies that I used to work for. So the defense for hacktivism as a service requires a layered approach. The mitigation techniques are AI-driven anomaly detection, real-time monitoring, stronger encryption, cybersecurity training, and MFA. Something that I've noticed and also that I would encourage organizations to do is creating a threat knowledge base where you have the threat actors that you've been seeing, their TTPs, their behavioral patterns, and just monitoring on that. So we're entering a phase where hacktivism, cybercrime, and influence operations converge. As tooling gets cheaper and more automated, more people will turn to hacktivism as a service for their justification, political, or malicious purposes, and defenders need to treat hacktivism as a service as a technical threat and narrative weapon. We are predicting that with automation and AI, it will lower the barrier for people to do this, and attribution will become harder, and hacktivism will continue to blend with cybercrime and cyber mercenary models. Thank you.